Thank you so much for joining us, gentlemen. We are ready for part 2 of the panel about the growth of esports in Saudi Arabia. So welcome. I have a lot of questions and a lot of time, so this is going to be an interesting discussion, I hope. Let me introduce you all first very briefly. I think everybody in the room knows who you are, but Mr. Turki Al-Fawzan, I'm very honored to have you here with us. You are the CEO of the Saudi Esports Federation and have played an instrumental role in driving the execution of the national gaming and esports strategy, as well as many, many other projects, which we'll be talking about a little bit later. Next, Faisal bin Homran, Chief Product Officer at the Esports World Cup Foundation, playing a pivotal role in shaping the vision and the execution of the Esports World Cup, which is the world's largest esports and gaming festival, and representing the business and advisory role of the industry, Mr. Hassan Malik, here from Deloitte, bringing us insights and trends from esports and gaming. We will dive into a bit of data in a minute. Thank you so much again. Mr. Al-Fawzan, the first question is for you. With His Royal Highness just now, we talked about Saudi being the fastest growing esports market and how amazing the opportunity here is, and the role the kingdom plays on the global stage. And the Saudi Esports Federation was the powerhouse that was really driving the launch of many key initiatives, from the grassroots to what was the biggest, largest event at the time, Gamers 8. How was that work contributing to laying the foundation for Saudi Arabia's rise as a global esports and gaming hub?
Well, first of all, thank you, and thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here and to share some of the challenges, the journey, and the opportunities within the sector. Well, the Saudi Esports Federation established back in 2017 with absolutely His Royal Highness Prince Faisal as chairman. The journey as being the first entity within the whole ecosystem was full of ambition, I would say. The vision was I would say too good to be true with the resources at that time. We started that journey with a vision to execute something great. Good is not enough, as Prince Faisal used to say. So we started with a very small team. The journey was full of challenges. And the first thing we realized how huge this sector is. When it's come to gamers, we're talking about basically 2/3 of the population. 20 million gamer is not an easy number. So the challenge is how to serve these millions of players and millions of target audience. So starting with identifying what's the North Star and how to achieve it. Identifying what's the ecosystem and what's the gap. In the beginning, there was nothing, basically. When it's come to professional players, there was only a handful of them, and that's it. When it's come to the number of hours gamers are playing, it's significant. The number of players are significant. Everything was indicating that this is something big. No one tackled it yet. So we came and we designed the ecosystem where the players, the tournaments, and we realized that there is a huge gap. We started strategizing the whole sector by having the gap between the as-is and the North Star, which was a lot of things. When it comes to the infrastructure, when it comes to the talents, and if I break down the talents, there is a lot within that area as well. The teams, the players, even the private sector. We cannot do this by ourselves. We need a private sector. Yeah. One of the basic fundamental challenges in day one, whenever we release an RFP, we get a wrong a proposal from private sector themselves. So we started to invest with the private sector by increasing the awareness even with the vendors who we want. And by investing a lot in all the aspects within the ecosystem, we came up with a full strategy, not even on a federation level. It's on a national level. It's a sectorial strategy, which is the National Esport and Gaming Strategy, where we started with the whole big initiatives tackling the local, regional, and international scene.
It's especially impressive if you remember that you've only been doing this for a couple of years. Starting in 2017, it's only a few years that you had an opportunity to lead that, so that's pretty impressive. You touched upon major events and big events. My next question is for you, Faisal. And I'm just going to rattle through some stats. If you haven't heard of the Esports World Cup before, I think this will be mind-boggling. In 2024, we had the inaugural edition of the Esports World Cup, bringing together 1,500 elite athletes from 200 clubs from 100 countries who competed across 22 tournaments in 21 games. There's not an event like it anywhere else in the world. On top of that, the prize pool available for the event was over $60 million US. 500,000 people have tuned in online, and 2.6 million people have seen the esports festivities at the Boulevard here in Riyadh. So this was a defining moment for esports and gaming, and the next one is coming up. And I know Prince Faisal will be there. He just said so.
100%.
100%. So as the Esports World Cup returns, Faisal, what can we expect? And what do you think the impact of that event will be on Saudi Arabia's role in the international esports market?
First of all, I think going back step to last year, it was a historical year with the inaugural version of Esports World Cup that happened in Riyadh. It had the best impact when it comes to the industry, internationally, locally, and even regionally. And as you know, we're excited about this year after the massive success from last year. But just to remind everyone about the usual 4 pillars that we keep reminding ourselves, and what are we doing different with them, and what is Esports World Cup? It's 4 main things, or 4 main pillars, which are the publishers, the clubs, the players, and the fans. And each one of them, we're focusing on how to improve or enhance. For the publishers, we make sure that we have the best games. And we have more games this year. So 25 tournaments, 24 games. And for the clubs, we have more clubs this year. So we have more than 200 clubs competing. At the same time, we increased our club program from last year from 30 clubs to a 40 club. Players and the prize money for the players, we have a life-changing prize money for them. Last year it was $60 million. This year is going to be more increased as the tournaments are increasing. Lastly, the fans, which is the most important piece out of this. We want to make sure that they have the best experience ever when it comes to the Esports World Cup. So with those 4 elements, focusing on them, improving them, enhancing them, day and night, I think we are expecting a way better version than last year for 2025, and everyone here will enjoy it. Being them gamers or not, you will be happy and you will be enjoying it.
That's lovely to hear. Thank you, Faisal. Mr. Malik, from a global business perspective, how is Saudi Arabia positioned within the esports and gaming economy, and how do investors and partners view the opportunity in the region? And I see you brought your notes, so looking forward.
Thanks, Anna. And firstly, thank you very much. It's an absolute pleasure to be here. So look, I think over the last few years, and as Mr. Toki and Mr. Faisal have already touched upon, Saudi's been gaining a great foothold in the esports stage. I think the Saudi esports brand is now gaining great international recognition. And I think, Saudi's well on its way to being established as a global hub for esports. What I'd like to talk about is sort of the value chain, or key elements of the value chain of sort of esports, and what investors and partners might look for. And if I talk about 3 elements of that, there's investments, both locally and globally, that have been helping with the esports sort of ecosystem in Saudi. There's the events, which we've touched upon, and I think there's some to come as well. and then there's other wider initiatives. And if I just take each one of those in turn, Saudi has invested globally in games developers, whether it's minority stakes or acquisitions or other things, but there is big investment going on globally in the esports and gaming space from within Saudi. Saudi has also invested in esports organizations, helping arrange events and platforms, ESL as an example. And then if we go on to talk about physical infrastructure, let's just take Qadiyah as an example, and I think people were talking about Qadiyah earlier in the day as well. Qadiyah's planning to build a whole gaming and esports district, a remarkable and significant district with multiple venues and so on and so forth. So I think, there is a huge amount of investment that's, Saudi is taking place locally and globally. When we talk about events, and I don't want to sort of repeat some of what's been said, but, the Esports World Cup, I think, remarkable and first of its kind. We now hear of the Olympic esport games coming, and I don't know that much about them, but we look forward to hearing more. And these are all firsts, right? So,
absolutely,
Saudi is hosting big and major multi-events already in the kingdom, and I think a lot to come. There are other markets that still do a lot of events, but I think Saudi has, come a long way, and with the first ever Olympics in esports, who's to stop them being the front runners? So I think, all in all, I think, it's a huge opportunity for investors and partners, and I think they're very excited. And our colleagues globally are always talking to us about the region, and in particular Saudi Arabia, whether it's the wider sports or esports. So huge appetite and opportunity.
Thank you. That segues perfectly into my next question, because no industry can survive rapid growth without talent. We need talent, not just professional gamers, not just casters, not just broadcast talent, but also people to actually operate the arenas and build leagues and build products around them. So I'd love to ask Turki and Faisal this question to both of you. And Turki, I think from the Saudi Esports Federation's perspective, right, the ability and the commitment to developing a talent pipeline for Saudi players is really prevalent. What would you say impact did the grassroots and elite programs that you have worked on had on the long-term esports growth?
Yeah. I think when it's come to the talents, specifically players is an essential. It's the core around everything. It's the main thing. So we have the players as a main player. And the journey that we see for the players from grassroots, where it's schools, university. Also, we have an advantage within the esport comparing with traditional sport, that we can go with the virtual leagues and activity as well. To the professional scene, where the elite can compete as well, so on so. So this is a very clear program for us within the Saudi Esport Academy underneath the federation. There is so many programs, and based on each individual games, how to take the grassroots to a professional level. And there is a lot of initiatives toward that. And also how to take professionals to a national icons. Okay, as Hassan said, that now we're lucky that esport became an Olympic game.
Yeah.
So very soon we're gonna have a national team for participating in Olympic, representing the country, not only in Saudi, but this is gonna be a global scene. So how to have the best national team, this is what we're working on in the federation and in the academy. And in order to have that healthy journey, we need a lot of talents beyond even players. we need commentators, we need coaches, we need administrators, managers.
Everybody.
We need the whole ecosystem to be mature in order to achieve our ambition, which is, as a national federation, it's a simple thing where we share this with any other national federation, which is achieving a golden medals in international stages and platforms. So, yeah, within our strategy, there is a main pillar toward the talents, and there is a lot of initiatives, a lot of programs and projects toward the Talents 360.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, and maybe to add on that, especially for the federation, and one of the IPs that I love the most, which is Saudi leagues. As a player, how can you prove yourself, or how can you take the opportunity is to have a platform or a tournament that you can try and compete in. And the federation has the Saudi leagues running throughout the year. So even this started in 2020, not even 2025 or 2024. Since 2020, the federation had the Saudi leagues for different communities all over the year for them to compete, enhance their skills, grow in that specific games, for them to compete. And today and this year, and in the past few months, we're seeing those talents grow internationally and perform in platforms internationally and winning some big titles, like the FIFA E World Cup with Rocket League. The Saudi Rocket League national team won that event worldwide. That didn't come because they were only talented. There was a platform for them to host them and to train them and to make them ready globally. And to divert from that to the foundation and the Esports World Cup, with the federation, we did an initiative called the Festival Stars. As Turkey was saying, there's not only talent as in players. You have casters, you have programmers, you have anything around esports. So we're going to pick weekly festival stars from the community who can be exposed more to the gaming community and show their skills, either being casting or they're game developers or other talents as well. So the Esports World Cup will be a platform for them during July and August. And I think these opportunities are important for those talented people to take the opportunity and shine more.
It's probably one of the most commonly asked questions that we get at the Esports World Cup Foundation. Hey, how can I get involved? And this is such a wonderful answer to that. So I'm looking forward to having so many festivals start at the World Cup. Faisal, I want to stay with you just for a second still, because in your role as a Chief Product Officer at the World Cup Foundation, you are very deeply involved with so many stakeholders, and one of them are esports clubs.
Yeah.
So I'd love to bring a bit of their perspective into this conversation. Could you tell us about how esports clubs really benefit from the incredible investments that the Kingdom is committing to?
Okay. So for that, Esports World Cup as an IP was the missing piece in the industry. There was no IP that benefits the clubs. There was a lot of tournaments all over the year that benefits mostly the players, but doesn't recognize clubs. Esports World Cup came in and filled that space, and for that, we started with a club program. Club program supports all different clubs to prepare themselves more and having more rosters to compete in EWC. And with that being said, clubs like Falcons, like Liquid, like the other clubs internationally competing for EWC are partners with EWCF, the foundation, to either bring more rosters to compete and qualify for the road to EWC, to being part of the campaigns that amplify and market EWC throughout the year. And this year we have 40 clubs partners with us in EWC. So the club with EWC have more benefits dealing with EWC, competing in the event or being part of the campaigns or attending the event itself. So the club is recognized with EWC, not only the players.
And the longevity the program offers to the clubs and sustainability this brings with itself, it's incredible.
Yeah, it's a big program. It's around $20 million this year for the 40 clubs. That's up to the grab, depending on the performance they do during the year.
That's very substantial. Thank you.
Welcome.
Mr. Malik, Switching gears a little bit to the recent survey that Deloitte has conducted, I'm hearing through the grapevine. And we know that the report is not out yet, but could you share a bit of a sneak peek at some of the more interesting stats that you found?
Yeah, sure, very happy to. So just to give you a bit of context behind the survey, it's a survey we last ran 2 years ago, and we've repeated just now recently, and it runs actually globally across 22 countries. In each country, we interview around or survey around 1,000 people. So 22,000 people all over the world have been surveyed on sort of their esports consumption, viewership, spending, et cetera, et cetera. If we focus a little bit on sort of the Saudi survey and the Saudi sort of results, and I'll maybe do a comparison to the last survey and also a little bit to relative to global averages. Of the 1,000 people in Saudi, firstly, if we look at demographics, it was actually very close split between male and females that were surveyed. So it was, I think from memory, it was 58% male, 42% female. So we got a reasonable balance. We had a balance of sort of generations. So there was 40% Gen Z, 45% millennials, and also some Gen X and baby boomers. And then in terms of sort of location within Saudi, we had large cities and rural areas surveyed. So it was really to get a sense of the whole sort of demographics and population. And some of the key sort of outputs of that, over the last couple of years, what we've seen is that the percentage of people surveyed, the number of gamers actually rose. So last time it was around 45% of those surveyed were gamers. Now it's around 69%, so a pretty substantial increase. Yeah. If we now talk about sort of viewers and viewership and sort of those that we might term loyal viewers, i.e. they watch esports once a week or so, that again has nearly doubled since 2 years ago within Saudi. So 2 years ago it was around 14%, and now we're looking at 26%. So all of the metrics are sort of on the rise, and the demand and the consumption patterns for esports are you know, very healthy, I would say. In terms of global benchmarks, no matter which metric I take from a commercial inclination or commercial willingness to spend, Saudi actually was higher than the average, which I found quite interesting. So, you know, if we look at paywalled esports streams, Saudi was at 24% versus 18% globally. If we take a look at sort of even physical merchandise and purchasing of merchandise, Saudi was at 81% versus 71% globally. And then even tickets for attending events, Saudi was at 79% versus 67% globally. So, you know, all metrics, they've been on the rise locally within Saudi and also compared to the global I guess, survey that we've done. So remarkable, I would say, and it
truly is, yeah. And segues perfectly into my next question, as we, I think, are establishing that Saudi Arabia is well on its way to become a long-term global leader in esports and gaming. I would like to ask you about the opportunities and the challenges that you're seeing, starting with you, Mr. Turkey. What do you think are the biggest opportunities and the biggest challenges that the kingdom will face on its way to become the global leader in esports and gaming?
Well, when it's come to opportunities, I think we're just started. Like, okay, the federation established back in 2017, but during that journey, we found the pandemic, we came up with an initiative, which is Gamers Without Borders, was a huge initiative to everyone. And we took that biggest virtual esport IP into a physical one, an offline one, which is Gamers 8, and it got evolved to Esport World Cup today. So, and we did only one version out of the Esport World Cup. So looking at the future and looking at the opportunities, the gap within the strategy, the ambitions that we're like trying to achieve is a lot. And in the whole value chain, the whole ecosystem, there is a lot of gaps that we are pushing very hard to fulfill in all aspects within the whole value chain. When it's come to players, there is a huge opportunity not to participate in Saudi League only, but to become a national champion. When it's come to like a job, we're targeting 40,000 jobs within the ecosystem. So there is a lot of opportunities within that space as well. And when it's come to the infrastructure, when it's come to the private sector, the whole value chain, we're talking about a whole sector which has a national strategy or a strategy on a national level. So speaking about the opportunities, I believe it's endless, and we're in day one. Still, we didn't achieve that much of what we are trying to achieve. The challenges, definitely there is no an easy journey, especially with our targets, with our ambition. The North Star is not easy to achieve. The road is full of challenges, but I believe all these challenges are opportunities in a way or another.
There was one opportunity me and Turkey was thinking about 3-4 years ago in the Federation doing Gamers 8. And we spoke about, do you think the Olympics will happen soon? And I still remember that meeting, and both of us were giving the opinion of this is the big thing. The Olympics, the IOC, consider the e-sport as an official sport is something huge we hope to witness. And today we're talking about Olympics, OEG, Olympic Sport Games happening in Saudi, happening in 2027. The first year is the opportunity we were talking about before, and this is one of the opportunities we're having. Olympics is one of the things that give the credibility for the sport itself, giving more layer from the mainstream to speak more about this industry more and more. But I think Turkey covered already the opportunities. For the challenges, at the same time, and Turkey knows a lot about this, publishers 5 years ago, it was hard to bring them on board when it comes to the big IPs. Gamers Without Borders, Gamers 8, Saudi leagues, not all of them were on board. I think with every milestone we had in the past 6 years, we are tackling that challenge and make it an opportunity in the same time. We're still midway. We have a lot of great partners as publishers, but I think there's also a bigger wave to come in and be partner. Before we were talking, we want only the license. That was our biggest achievement. We need the license. Today, no, I don't want the license. Today, I need a partner with me in this tournament. I need the publisher to be on board. I need to be the in-game support. I need. So
true partnership.
True partnership. And that's the challenge that we had before, that today I think we're progressing very well. But I think with the efforts, with the different stakeholders, we are getting there. And with every year, you will see more of these partnership flourish in front of you.
Thank you. What do you think, Hassan?
I think a lot of the points have been covered. Just to add a couple of maybe additional points. I think we talked about, the full ecosystem, players, clubs, etc. earlier. I think there's opportunities around, academies, training centers, more things around developing the sort of players and the programs around them. I think there's also probably ambition and drive for, investment in technology and innovation. So how we do things differently, how we become the first to do them. So the Olympics Esports Games is a first, but everything we do, the technology will evolve, the platforms will evolve. So how do we actually stay at the forefront of that? And I think there'll be continued opportunity in that. I think on the challenges side, and I touched upon it, there are still other established esports hubs that, will be looking across and saying, well, you know what, we still want to be a global esports hub. And I think we're going to have to keep an eye out of what they're going to do to progress and invest and compete. So I think there will be an ongoing challenge, particularly, USA, China, South Korea. And I think from a private sector standpoint, there's also a consideration of, there's a lot of support, government support, investment, but how does the private sector make sure that they can be sustainably profitable in the sector as time progresses? So there's some ideas.
There we go. Thank you so much. My last question for today is very, very forward-looking. Imagine it's 2030. Vision is completed. Vision 2030 is completed. We all very happy with how it turned out. What will it look like for you, for your line of work, for your industry? Malik, let's start with you.
It's a interesting question. I think, to be honest, I think what it will look like is, much of the population not just engaging in sort of the participation of playing the games, but also viewing games. I'll be honest, as an individual, I was a gamer when I was at school. Counter-Strike was my game of choice back then, but I've never made the switch to being a viewer of gaming. And I think how we, how society has evolved so that, there are people that used to game, but now maybe view and are going into other spectrums of the gaming ecosystem. And I think that would be remarkable. I think successful Olympics, successful major events, that would be absolutely amazing.
Thank you. Faisal?
I think today we are the esport hub, but by 2030 we are the home of esports. I think any individual around the world would think about esports, not would think about Saudi, but want to be in Saudi Arabia, want to be in Riyadh. So I think we will be the home of esports, and I'm fully confident with the people we have today, the team, the stakeholders, that's achievable.
Thank you very much. Turkey.
Well, thank you, Anna, for the question. Maybe when it's come to esports, Faisal answers. I'm going to answer as a Saudi citizen. When the Vision 2030 came, it was even for me at least, it was just too good to be true. Until I became part of the movement of the Vision 2030. And now we're in the middle, or maybe the last third of the vision, and we're seeing results that it's being achieved, most of the numbers, initiatives, and KPIs. I can't wait, to be honest, until that moment where 2030. But I think maybe the feeling will be proud is underestimating the fact of the emotions at that moment. But we're very excited to see the results in the near future.
Thank you so much, everybody. Thank you for your insights and contributions. And if you have any further questions for any of the panelists, we'll be happy to connect you in the lobby and discuss this further. Thank you, everybody, for joining us, and have a great rest of your day.